provides and has provision for his family.
I would agree. I would agree. Those are definitely qualifications of a good man. Um, Go ahead, Shanae, add to that.
Turn your
I think
mic
I
on.
can. I think I can agree with that. But I want to add. A lot of times we think about protection, where it's that like the rah rah, and protecting in that way, but we don't talk about the emotional and the spiritual protection. And that's the part that you can't actually measure, engage, and that's the most important part. And that sets the tone for the entire family.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to agree with you 1000%. I think that if you would have asked me this 20 years ago, I would have solely said, uh, is he a provider? Does he protect the family? Does he, this, that, and the third? I would have said all of those things definitely, which those are qualifications for a good man. However, now being older and being knowledgeable in a lot more areas of understanding the emotional aspect of a relationship, I would definitely add, does he protect my feelings? Is he a gaslighter? Is he a
Yeah.
narcissist? And when I say a narcissist, I even say we had this conversation since we have been here on vacation, and we talked about people with narcissistic ways. And to be truthfully honest, I think everybody can have a narcissistic way, somehow. Some way, somehow, we can all be some form of narcissistic if we are looking at it the way that the definition of narcissism is. I think we all can be selfish in some ways. I think we all can be some ways of some form have narcissistic characteristics. However, I do believe that there are people who are strictly narcissistic, and that's the difference between having some selfish ways versus being totally narcissistic. And I think that even understanding that, as a whole, I think we as a people have to take accountability in understanding when people have those types of traits, when people have traits of narcissism and gaslighting, and those are not protection measures. Those are not measures that are going to protect you as a woman, protect you even as a man. If a woman is gaslighting you, she ain't protecting you. She's not protecting the relationship. She's not protecting who you are. So you have to think about that when you are in a relationship. Even I heard someone use the term the other day, breadcrumbing. When someone is breadcrumbing you, that's not protecting you. That's not providing for you. So when I think about a good man or woman in a relationship, I think about all of those emotional characteristics in a relationship where you are not being fulfilled. Now, I don't believe that you'll get total fulfillment out of anyone. I
Right.
just don't believe that. I don't believe that you will find anyone in this world that will total fulfill you but the Lord up above. That's it. However, I do believe that there is a relationship out there that can give you so much fulfillment that the things that you are missing, you won't feel like it's a loss in a relationship. I really do. Somebody want to
I do
add to
want to
that?
jump in as you
Okay.
talk about like tendencies and narcissism and traits, and be clear that all of them are born from trauma. And we
Yeah.
all have some sort of trauma, and it is time to actually start talking about that in our communities. Very importantly, and I think too, those things become very taboo. But we should be talking about them and addressing them, and not in even a negative like mental health way, but more of like a brain health way, because trauma creates things like anxiety. A lot of us laugh jokingly because we got ADD and different things like that. By addressing those things, we can be better and more whole and more healthy individually, in order to be better, like in relationships. And a lot of times we don't address that with men, that sometimes some of those tendencies are born from there. And because men are not allowed to show weakness, they don't have opportunities to kind of address those things to be this quote unquote good man that we're often talking about.
I totally agree. I feel like there has to be an opportunity for him to even want to address those issues with you. Um, a lot of men, they kind of live their relationships out of ego. So therefore, they don't want to push issues or show weaknesses to the woman that they're supposed to protect. But I personally feel it is a weakness when there is a issue of trauma that you refuse to get fixed. That is a weakness, and you're not protecting her when that's not being fixed or addressed. Therese?
I feel like protection is, when I say protection, I'm not talking about, like what Shanae said, I'm not talking about standing up to somebody who comes against you. I mean that in a space of engagement and um vulnerability. Because I talk a lot about vulnerability.
Yes.
Um and I just and so for me, men can be very guarded, and they have their own reasons why they are guarded, whether it's trauma, or sometimes it could come in an era of immaturity, where they don't feel like it's a safe space for them to bring that vulnerability. So they don't really understand what that protection means. So and they won't ask questions. And sometimes, even if they do ask questions, sometimes people ask the right questions to the wrong people, right? Because
Yep.
in our culture, like Shanae said about the ego thing, sometimes you have grown people still after 40 years old, still trying to prove to people that they are an adult because of their immaturity and lack thereof of being accountable and responsible.
Yes. I
You
agree.
know, so
I
that's
totally agree.
that's my take on the protection part, because sometimes I just feel like, as a culture of people, we don't try to tap into resources. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were saying that they realized at a certain age that they needed to get help for themselves. And the question, because I've known this person for a while, I said, "Is it because of trauma?" And the person was like, "Yeah." And I said, that's not a bad thing at all. That's what self-care really is. People look for other people to try to validate them. You have to validate yourself. That's what self-love really is in my eyes.
Yes, absolutely. I think once we understand um, the self part of it, the
Yeah.
self part of it, I think people are trying to fix themselves for other people. So therefore, they are trying to validate the person's approval based
Hmm.
on how much I need to get fixed in order to have this person.
Hmm.
So
I
if I
tell
get
my
you to get
girls, my grown girls, let me tell you something. It was a time where women had to prove themselves to be a good woman to a man. You don't need to prove, you don't need that validation in order for you to be able to keep somebody. If that person is not your person, that's just not your person. You don't have to water yourself down or try to prove that. I've been in that space before, that
yep.
prove that you're a good woman, because cooking and cleaning, because this generation of girls, they ain't cooking no meals for no man, child.
Oh, yeah. Right? Right?
You
Yeah.
know, that was our thing. I could show the man how to cook and clean, and yeah, this generation don't care nothing about that. Mama, I ain't cooking for no
Absolutely.
man. Girl, I understand. You don't start nothing you don't want to finish or you don't want to maintain.
Yes, absolutely. I think once that person understands that um, the healing that is needed is within them, and it's not really about the relationship, and it's really not even about defining themselves as a good man. It's really defining themselves within themselves as being healed.
Yeah,
And then the healed individual just instantly displays a good man. Because it's so many men in our society, like I can't even express how many men that I have heard say, I just want to be a good man, or I don't want people to think I'm a bad person. And I was like, how about you just be a good person and then nobody won't think you're a bad person?
mhm,
But it's because they're so busy trying to figure out how good can I be just enough to get by.
right,
Like I can be good enough for passing. So what's the passing score? Where can I pass? What is good
right.
enough to pass? And that's where I feel like I see where a lot of our men are lacking because they're being good enough to pass, but once they pass and they've succeeded the woman, they are failing miserable in the relationship because what they did was they were good enough just to get the person. And now they're trying to figure out why the relationship is failing miserably. And they don't understand why.
Also, too, passing to get the person is relative because we also are dealing in a society where a lot of women are trying to find themselves. So,
Right.
and some women take pride and so busy being that quote unquote good woman that they're not even willing to challenge a man to be his best self for himself. And so there's a lot of nuance when it comes to that part of it. So
Right.
in some scenarios, that's a major challenge because when you're trying to be the best person for that woman,
Mhm.
that may not number one be fulfilling. And then that means too that there's a ceiling because if that woman can't see past even herself, that also means you can't see and to be the best man for her as well. And so, like, we see that a whole lot. A lot of times, and I have to say this, especially in the black community, we have we call it enmeshment, where black moms look at their sons basically as their man. So it's their
Mhm.
sons who need to take care of them emotionally and financially,
Mhm.
and for many of different reasons. So their sons end up becoming the best men for them. But then what happens is they're not challenged emotionally to be able to grow. So then they're not emotionally mature in relationships. And they end up seeking out women who don't challenge their emotional maturity either. So yes, on surface, they're great men because they provide money, and they're great men because they might even date them. They might be great men because they're great in the bed, could even have a great job. But because they're not emotionally mature, they can
Yeah.
not know how to navigate when life happens,
Yeah.
when there's a loss in the family or grief, or when the kids are going through things, or sickness and things like that happen. So like
Mhm.
understanding that even being a good man is very relative because sometimes us as women haven't even developed enough to understand what that is.
Right.
Mhm. Which is which is very, very true. We actually had a conversation since being here on vacation with a couple of the ladies, and one of the conversations were um, women take time to heal. Men don't. They just get into another relationship. They heal in the next relationship.
Hmm.
So does that qualify as a good man because you chose not to take time for healing?
Hmm.
Because they like, hey, listen, the next woman to heal me. Whereas we are taking time to heal emotionally, emotional scars, emotional traumas. We're taking the time to do all of that. Men, they was like, I heal with the next one.
Mm-hmm. And that brings forth uh that's still taking trauma from one relationship to the next one. And then you got this woman who's trying to love you past your circumstances or situations that you've previously been in, and you're not, and men don't express themselves enough to say this is the triggers, because a narcissist is going to tell you everything that last person did wrong. And then sometimes, and the majority of the time, when a woman wants to be with that man, she becomes the opposite of that last female. And he could have been lying. He could have been lying and manipulating you because he's trying to build you to be what he wants you to be. How long that's gonna last? Because then that crashes. You know, I used the what was the name of the movie where happily never nappy ever after, when she was
Not
faking.
exactly
Oh,
what happened.
yeah, when she was faking, and her mama was coming in and doing her hair every morning. And then one day she just said, you know what, enough is enough, and just cut all her hair off because I need to be unapologetically myself. That's how you sabotage a relationship when you come into it with and then at our age we got baggage. Everybody got baggage, right?
Oh,
It's
yes. But no,
what you're willing to put up with, because if the goal is fulfillment, then and you are giving your 100% and that other person is not, then where does the fulfillment come in for you? And that's the part of yourself that you need to be selfish in, is loving yourself to know enough to know, hey, I'm not dealing with that. I don't want to deal with that. Look at Savannah. Savannah was with a whole man, somebody else man. And well, mama say he a good man, Savannah.
the good
Absolutely
man,
not. That's somebody else man, Savannah.
the good man don't Savannah, he a good man.
Right.
He a good man. He a good man. But in hindsight, if we just take a look at it, even that, Savannah's mother just did not want Savannah to be alone.
Right.
So all she saw was a man who was willing to spend time with Savannah. It did not, all of the baggage that Kenneth came with, she cared nothing about it.
Right.
All she knew is that she did not want Savannah to be alone. But what
Right.
she did not realize is Savannah was still being alone.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's because her mama was pulling from her own trauma and her own relationships.
Which,
As well. And I always tell people that, like, gauge your
which in
source even
hindsight,
as well when you're taking advice.
that's what a lot of people do. They
Mhm.
pull from their own trauma. This is
Mhm.
why you have to be careful for who you take advice from and what
Right.
season that they are in their life. Because if
Right.
they're in a season of bitterness, I can't take advice from a person that's in their season of bitterness, because their season of bitterness is getting ready to give me some wrong advice.
Yeah.
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 So their season of loneliness. Their season of loneliness may give me some wrong advice. So it's one of those things that you have to really sit back and look at the individual and the season that the individual is in. And that's the mistake sometimes that we make as people, is that we feel like once this person has given me some good advice once or twice, I get to take their advice in every season of their life. And
Right.
sometimes they may be going through their own trauma, their own season in their own traumatic season in their life. And the advice that they may be given may be bitter or angry or frustration or sad or lonely advice that we should not be taking right now in this season. It doesn't make them a bad person, it just actually makes them human.
Right.
But I think sometimes we get it misconstrued, but we feel like, well, why would she tell me that? Why would she want me to go do da da da? Right? And if I'm using Savannah's mother as an example. And if you all don't know who we're talking about Savannah and Waiting to Exhale, when she was dating the married man, and her mother wanted her to continue to date him, and he was telling her all the lies about he was going to leave his wife, da 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 da. However, in that
Or keep
season,
that in the side. Savannah is Whitney Houston's character for anybody that might be unfamiliar.
Savannah is Whitney Houston's
Right.
character, exactly.
Right.
But what it's not that her mother didn't love her and wanted her to date this man. Her mother loved her greatly. It was just that her mother was in her own season of loneliness, and she
Mhm.
desired that her daughter had somebody, and she felt like that man loved her enough. So sometimes we have to understand the advice that we are getting from people who love us based on the season that they are in their
Right.
lives right then. So sometimes we'll take it and take offense to the advice because we will say, "How dare she want me to do da 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 da?" Just like Whitney did. Well, Mama, you know you effing having me. That's what she told her mom. So
Mhm.
but it was one of those things that she was so angry that how dare her mother continue to push this man off on her. But it's one of those things that it's a way that you can stand your ground for those who love you, but it's a way that you can display and say, "Hey, listen, I just don't want to do that." So but it's understanding the season of their life that they are in at that season of their life, and not take offense and know that they still love you. Right now they're just going through their own maybe bad season in life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know that I have been in different seasons of my life, and I have, had some people come to me and ask me certain things, and I say, "Child, listen, I'm over here trying to figure out my own stuff right now. I don't know what to tell you."
Me too.
Because I'm not trying to hurt. I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. Because I know that if I'm in a bad place, I know that I could take somebody to a bad place. So,
Yeah,
uh, I say, girls, you're gonna have to figure this out, girl. And the best thing we can say is what? Pray about it.
that's it. That's it. And
Because
I'm
when
Well, I'm
I
gonna give some advice, but I'm gonna tell
right,
them where it came from and tell them take it what you do with it. I'm gonna ride
right,
with you, whatever you decide to do. But this because nobody can tell you that. And I think that's the issue too. People often lean on their friends for advice about their relationship, not realizing I don't care who it is, you're never gonna tell everybody everything. And also,
right,
even when you tell people, you're gonna tell it from your lens. So
right,
in your lens and your point of view, it's always gonna look a particular way to you. And feel that way. So getting people to understand that part. And then also we all got a different heart. We all have different boundaries. So also understanding when you're trying to give people advice, how much advice can you really give? Understanding that people got different boundaries because of their different experiences and their different lenses on life. So if
yes,
a person is not bringing like physical harm and putting you on harm's way, you pretty much got to let people sort their things out in that particular manner, understanding that and withhold judgment and never say what you will and won't do, because honey, life will
mm.
teach you to hold that bill.
listen,
I
I
done
can't
did everything I said I wasn't gonna do.
listen, Linda. Listen, I got so much eating of what I said I wasn't gonna do. It's ridiculous. But
Mhm.
it has taught me so many different lessons. And it has taught me that um, judgment from me, even if I thought it in my head, I try not to let it come out my mouth,
Mm.
period. Even if I thought it, because we're still human. So there are some things that you're gonna think. But even
Right.
if I try not to let it come out of my mouth. I had one of my little adopted nieces call me one day, and she says, "Auntie, I just want to thank you for never judging me." And I said, "Okay." She says, "You just never judged who I was, what I was doing when I was out there, doing whatever." And I said, "Because that was once me,
Right.
so I have no reason to judge you." And she's like, "I know, but you still could have." I said, "I'm not. Like, we all still live. Maybe we
Right.
all still live. So I ain't got no reason to judge you on nothing." period.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's go back to this question. So what qualifies, again, as a good man? We already talked about Savannah man. So let's talk about what is really a good man. And I think that we have all added some good qualifications of what a good man is and what a good man is not.
Did we talk about ones that are willing to be vulnerable and grow past themselves in order to be equipped for the relationship? And in
That's
order to
good.
be a leader, I think a lot of times too, they always, I got to be the head of the household and I got to be the leader, and that always got to be macho, but not understanding that a lot of times leadership is about vulnerability and
Mhm.
honesty. Leadership is about being collaborative, and you actually are able to transform what's happening in the household through your actions and not through your words. I think
Yes.
those are big things to actually really talk about and dig deep. And also understand, if we really want to talk about being a good man, they understand that who they are is bigger than just y'all in this moment, but it goes through like legacy and through generations. Understanding what legacy is a man leaving when we talk about what is a good man.
I agree.
And
I
possessing,
okay.
I think, and possessing character,
Mhm.
because sometimes somebody could, a man can't, talking about being the head of a house and can't lead you out of a paper bag. I just know that when I talk to my girls about dating, listen, you attract what you want. When you possess good character, you will attract people that, because they'll be like, it's something about her. I
Mhm.
want to get to know her, right? So same thing with a man, because neither one of us, me and Erica got this little joke that how some people, how men in the past have been, know we out their league. Not, and I'm not saying league as in like we better than nobody, but somebody walking up to you with their pants falling down and you looking at them like, what you saying? So I'm talking about possessing character that, for me, it is, you can adjust to any type of environment, that your mindfulness tells you to do the right thing even when no one's looking, and that's integrity, right? So those type of things, when I say characteristics, that's a characteristic that I look upon, not just in a man, in mankind,
Mhm.
because I just don't want to be fooled up with somebody that's always about themselves all the time. Because if God wanted us to be here by ourselves, He's big and bad enough to put us here by ourselves. And for me, that's my opinion, is good character.
I'm glad you brought that point up, though. I think my father was a great example of disaggregating it out. My daddy was a man of character. He necessarily wasn't a great husband, though. And he was clear about that. So he was a great father. He was a man of great character. And in his character, he was honest that he wasn't a great husband. And so also being, like real about those particular things. He was intentional. He got to shut off his back, things that he did. He always is very, very, if you dealt with him, you knew what you were getting into. So there was never a question of that. So even any woman that was with him knew those particular things. I also think it's imperative as well about it. So you can be a good man, and not necessarily be a great person in a relationship. And so sometimes we feel that way. You could be a great father and may not necessarily be a great person in a relationship.
Yeah,
And
you could be
sometimes
a
we
great
look at
father and
men,
not be a
they
great
are
husband.
people, right? And we look at people how they are in certain relationships and assume that they are, that crosses over in every relationship, and it necessarily doesn't.
No, it doesn't. I think I had this discussion with quite a few years ago with a young man, and I said every good father is not a good husband, and I think
Yeah.
sometimes there is a, especially when women are dating, I hear the term all the time. He's such a good father. He's such a good father. I was like, that doesn't make him a good husband.
Right.
Like him being a good dad doesn't make him a good husband. Like those kids, he gonna love whether the mama there or you there. Period. It's because he loves his kids. So, and I was like, every good husband actually doesn't always make a great father. So
Right.
it's one of those things that you cannot balance one from the other.
Right.
Sometimes good people are just good people. It's not about whether they're a good father or whether they're a good husband. And a lot of times, what we see on the outside is not necessarily what the wife is seeing on the inside. So we may say, "Oh my God, that is such a good husband," da 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 da, and the wife can tell you a whole other different story. Like,
Mm-hmm.
nah,
Yeah.
tell you some things, But although we understand that marriages go through different things, marriages take hard hits sometimes. Marriages, that's just sometimes a part of marriage. It does not have to be. I think that, especially in the Black community, we have been traumatized by infidelity in marriages to the point that we have made it okay and
Mm-hmm.
that it's supposed to happen. And that's just not true. When someone is healed and they're whole, they can be faithful to just you.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that we've been told over and over and over again. And I'm not saying that it will never happen, so I don't want to mislead anyone to say, oh, you can get in your marriage and it'll never happen. I don't want to mislead you like that because that's just not always true. I'm saying that it's still very possible that it can happen, that you can get into a marriage where your husband is healed and your wife is healed and secure, and and you are enough for them. And the misconception is the wife or the husband is not enough and they go out and cheat. And that's 9 times out of 10 not the truth. 9 times out of 10, it is definitely a trauma issue that the individual is dealing with within themselves. So,
And I
go
think
ahead.
unpack that more. So we live in a society where where you're indoctrinating and programming, and it comes from this culture of white people's culture. So let me be clear with that. Men are macho and seem to be more manly by having multiple women, and not and because they have painted that picture, no one is acknowledging that it is a trauma response and that they're looking for connection and they're needing more and looking outside of themselves and trying to feel whole with these behaviors. And at the same time, what they've done is a weaponization of women, so then women are deemed and looked at negatively for looking for that same connection and looking for that
Mhm.
same sense of wholeness. Additionally, they have deemed sexual stepping out as being the worst thing, when actually I'm of the opinion that emotional cheating can be worse because it takes a much deeper connection. It takes a lot more to make an emotional connection with someone, and that's a lot longer lasting. And because we're not having those conversations or really digging deep into that, that's why cheating and things are so prevalent, is because the root of it is not being addressed and it's being dismissed as something that is normal that should not be. I hear a lot of people always say, well, it's nature, it's innate. There are a lot of things that are in our nature. We're in survival mode. It could be in our nature to kill somebody, but we often don't harbor that immediately because we've learned how to live in society in a particular way.
I think that is so. I agree with you, Shanae. I think that if you've ever heard anyone talk about infidelity in a relationship, I think the woman, the wife, like if she finds out that her husband has cheated, right? I think that when she starts asking questions, when the questions become very what's the word I'm looking for, when she realizes that this man has made an emotional connection with the woman, I think that is the part that hurts the most, more than oh well, he was at my house last Tuesday. But when she started talking about spending time. Oh, he spend time with the kids. He paying bills over here. Um, he comes, he brings those things that he does that there is a lack in their house. That's the part that hurts the most with most women is when they realize the emotional uh connection that he has had with someone, and then we don't always know how do we come back from that, because like the people said, we not
And
our grandma them.
that is
We not our grandma them. We don't stay with Mr. Willie just because he went out over to Miss Pearl house one or two times. We not built like that no more.
well, back then our grandmas had to stay because a lot of them didn't have their means of making their own money. So now we got
Right,
choices. But also
right,
the issue with that is a lot of times when they're doing those things outside, it's because that woman don't get to see all the ugliness of them. So they
right.
get to be the good guy. Oh, he's so
Hmm.
amazing. Yeah, because you don't
Hmm.
see the hard parts of him when he's just a jerk just because. You don't see
Right,
the difficulties where he's triggered by a family member, he's taking it out on you. And so they get to romanticize that person that's stepping out on their relationship because they ain't got to do the hard work. So the woman at
right,
home is doing all the hard work for him to go be Mr. Nice Guy to you.
right. And I think I've had someone come to me and tell me um infidelity, and the question that I asked, where was the lack? That was my question that I asked. Where did the lack come from to make you step out? What was it? What was that the thing that made you step out? Because culturally, uh, well, I'm not gonna say culturally. I just feel that that's not always the answer for everybody. Everybody don't always step out. Um,
Some people
some
go
of
to
us,
drugs. Some people go to alcohol. Some people go to
alcohol, drugs, depression, self doubt, low self esteem. You start beating yourself up because you feel like you have not been the person that person needs. I'm gonna be who Sharice needs first, because if I can't give wholeheartedly to myself, I can't give to nobody else.
no,
So
no.
I think that sometimes people, like, I tell my children, when you have confidence in you, then you don't need nobody. Listen, I'm the first one to say, baby, I don't need no enemies, because I can be my own worst enemy. I don't need no help with that, honey. Because we all have those moments in our life. When you start getting old, you start getting a little weight, or things don't. You're not your body image changes, right? Um, I tell my husband, baby, I'm just gonna dress whatever body it is I got.
Hey, it is what it is. Take me as
I
I
would
am.
still be that girl.
Right,
Listen,
yeah,
I would still be that girl.
right,
Put my face,
right,
we gonna be all right.
right. So
Yeah.
I just don't want people to feel like when people make a conscious decision to do something that's wrong, that you should take ownership and allow that to kill your self-image or kill your self-esteem, thinking that even if you say that it was wrong of you to stay, because like in our culture, when you become an adult and you're out there dating and you say, hey mama, this my boyfriend such and such. Old school, what's the first question they used to ask? Who his people?
Oh yeah.
Dictating that off of, like, that person has to be, because of who his family is. If he came from a good family, it's some raggedy people in that family too,
Mm-hmm.
right? You
You
can't
got
always date somebody because you feel like they came from a good family, because that particular person that you think could be the raggedest one in the bunch.
listen. Don't
By now, there could be a lot of secrets in that family that y'all don't know about.
Right.
I want to say it that just because someone claims to have two parents and they come from a good family, does not make you the best of all the best. Don't get tricked into that. And just
Right.
because somebody was raised by a single parent does not negate for them to be the worst of all the worst. Do
Right.
not let someone trick you into that. The key is the person themselves. I have
Mm-hmm.
seen people who come from two-parent households and worth the crap. I went there,
Right.
they're my worst enemy. I've seen people who come from single parent households that are great, upstanding people. So
Right.
I would not, it's one of those things that you cannot, and actually I shared this with some of the older ladies this morning at breakfast. I said, when my nieces and my nephews come to me now and they say, well, auntie, or how do you think he is, or how do you think she is? My answer is the same now. I don't know. I ain't been around them long enough. So
Right.
let me be around it long enough because, for one, I don't want to make no dumb, judgmental call off of nothing that I see.
Right.
Number one. Number two, if I ain't prayed about nothing, I'm not going to judge this person about anything. Number
I also
two,
want to add, just because they have money and things does not make them good people.
Right.
say that once again,
Because they have money and things does not make them good people.
Right.
those are the most narcissistic people ever. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Arrogant and
yeah,
arrogant.
yeah. But
Right.
however, just letting them know that I'm not going to help them make any calls on an individual based off of anything that is superficial or anything that I see that's on the surface. I need to
Mm-hmm.
be around the people. And I'm always telling them when new people come around my family that they are dating, I'm quiet and I'm in a corner and I'm watching. And I'm watching their actions and I'm watching their reactions and I'm watching all of that because I need to know who are they here for. Because when you're marrying into the family, you are marrying the entire family. You're not just here for that person. So if that shows me that you're here just for them, then you ain't for this family. But if it tells me that you're here for more than just for the person, then maybe we can, maybe not we, I can let you in. Not we, I. But it's bigger. It's literally bigger than something that's superficial. I don't care
Right.
about pretty. I don't care about he cute. I don't care about she cute. I don't care about any of that superficial stuff. That's dumb junk that people are looking at. I want
Right.
to know how good this person is to my people, and that's that. Yeah, that's
And
it.
looking at temperament because a lot
Oh,
of times, like I feel like you should make a commitment to somebody until you see how they respond when they're mad.
glad, sad. No,
Right.
I need to see how you respond when I piss you off.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Because I'm going to do that, and I ain't backing
Right.
down. So where we going with
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
yes. Not just
Yeah.
you just mad. You did this one for me.
Yeah. How you
Yes,
gonna act when I go to 100?
yes, yes. And
Yeah.
one thing I remember listening to Lauren London say, the best thing she ever had from her relationship with Nipsey is no matter how much she went off and she got hot-headed, Nipsey stayed calm.
Yeah.
And I said, it takes a real man to stay calm. Men don't understand that they set the atmosphere for their
Right.
household.
Yep.
So
That
if
tone.
they talk on 25 all the time, why you think your woman cry?
Mm-hmm.
But if you can stay calm, you can actually keep her calm,
Oh yeah.
period. Even
You
when
like my
she,
husband.
if you can stay
You li-
calm. But
you
it
like my
takes
husband.
a immature man.
My husband say, you ain't scared to talk to me like that. I'd be like, absolutely not. All right. His response is, all right then.
Exactly.
I guess I'm gonna go on in this room. When my
Yes,
kids come over here, like, Dad, your wife this, your wife crazy, your wife. My husband's like, man, there's nothing wrong with my wife. You don't like what's
exactly.
going on over here? Man,
Yes,
go where you need to go. Cause ain't nothing
that
wrong with my
one,
wife.
that one, that one.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, what we are saying is what qualifies as a good man is, and I have not heard anyone say about the man having a relationship with God. I haven't heard that yet, and I'm normally the first one to mention that, but I did not. So let's get into that part. Having a man, and then I'm not talking about no man that just go to church.
Right.
Like I've been there, done that, and seen that. Man, there's
Mm-hmm.
people going to church their way straight to hell. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about someone who actually has a relationship with God and who is building a relationship with God, who actually spends intimate time with God. I'm not talking about nobody who just go to church. And that's the misconception sometimes that church folk have. They feel like just because somebody go to church, that means that they have a relationship with God. Sometimes they don't.
Yep.
It's people who go to church all their life and don't
And
have
be
a
the biggest
relationship with
devil,
God.
and their wives catch total hell at the house because they
Listen,
busting down the church and they yes sir pastor all the time and the biggest demon.
and they don't have a relationship with God.
Right.
So in order to, and this is my qualification as a good man, is you have a relationship with God. Like you have a relationship with God. And when I say relationship with God, is that um Shanae had to pop into a meeting, so she had to jump off the podcast. Thank you,
Okay.
Shanae. But being able to have a relationship and being able to intercede on my behalf is what I feel like a good man is. And when I say intercede, I mean pray. And I don't mean no shout out. I don't mean you getting out on your knees and be like, oh Lord, take care of Erica. No, I mean getting on your knees and going into intercession prayer for me. Like
Right.
literally praying for me, like I would do for you.
Right.
That's a qualification of what I feel like a good man is. And do a lot of these men come with these kind of qualifications? A lot of them don't. But
Right.
as my mother would say, people do what they want to do.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if that is something that someone wants to do and they want to see, to have a relationship with God, to be able to pray for their families and pray for their relationships, they will.
Yeah.
So that's a personal choice that someone makes in order to have that type of relationship. So the key is that person that you have going to make that sacrifice for you. Yeah. And that is a part of being a good man. So being able to protect, being able to provide, being able to be a man that can intercede and pray and have a relationship with God on your behalf, his behalf, and the behalf of the family. Being
Mm-hmm.
able to be a man to protect your feelings, even from his own. Being able to be a man to be able to protect you from his trauma.
Yeah.
Being able to be a man to stand up and and set the tone for his household. That is the qualifications of a good man. All this gaslighting, all these, especially at our age, all these men still trying to gaslight and still don't want to deal with their trauma issues. He just don't want to do
Right.
it. Just bottom
Right.
line. That's just not what he want to do. He want to gaslight because he want to see how far he can push you along, baby. That's it. He want to see how far he can string you along with the lies that he tells. That's it. That's it. But see it for what it is and make a decision. Because there is someone who wants healing in his life. And if you understand that, then you will understand the next step and the next move in your life. Period. Go ahead, Sharice, you want to add something to that?
I was just thinking about when you said like praying over your family. Also, I just feel that when a man is strong enough to be able to submit to God and to pray over his family, release comes for him as he prays for leadership over his family in a godly way. And
Mhm.
I feel like because it's been times where we have prayed for people and got something out of that prayer for us,
Yep.
right? So that's what I mean when I say that. Like
Yes.
when a man can pray for strongholds to be broken and uh hurt from the past, breaking the yoke of those things off of him also allows him to be able to really lead in that type of mannerism.
Yep.
Because a man who follows after God's heart, baby, he gonna
Yes.
win. He gonna
Yes.
win,
And
right?
that's the misconception that a lot of men have. When I look at men like, he gonna be mad at me because I said no, he ain't. He ain't gonna be mad. I'm gonna say it anyway. So when I look at men like my brother who has made this 360-degree change in his life, he could not have done it without God. He
Right,
could not have done it without prayer. He could not have done that without making some real changes in his life. He couldn't have been out there gaslighting God. You can't gaslight God.
right,
Like he had to make some serious changes in his life in order for some things to happen. And
right,
God blessed him profusely. Like so when you start looking at when men are ready, when they are ready to move past their healing and their trauma, uh, the divorce, the child support, the loss that they have, whatever it is, men have lost children, they have lost, they get hurt from divorces and loss of divorce just as well as women do.
hmm,
When they are ready to heal past those things, and then they are ready to not drag someone else into their own trauma of
right,
healing, but literally get their healing for themselves. You'll see it. You'll
yeah,
see it. You'll see the individual trying to get the healing for themselves because it's not about another relationship. It's just about what they need for themselves. It's not about who I need to get next. It's just about what they need for themselves. And when I talk to men who are going through those stages of just trying to get it for themselves, they understand this is
right,
not about another relationship. This is literally about I need to get me together for when the next relationship comes.
right.
Yeah.
And I just I want to say this because I think a lot of times people think that in order for a man to have a relationship with God, he got to bust the church doors down. I want people to stop thinking that just because somebody would be a willing participant to go to church with you, that don't mean that they got God in them.
Nope.
The devil can put on a suit and go to church, honey.
Do you hear me? I
And
see so many people do that, trying to
yeah,
get into the right relationship, trying to get into the right
yeah,
family, knowing darn well they don't go to church, but now they busting church doors
that's right.
down to make this person feel like they finna do this. No,
And then
that's why you gotta ask yourself
as soon as they
something.
get you and marry you up, then they gon' nah,
Oh, that's
baby,
gonna
you
do.
go ahead and go to church.
Oh,
It's
that's gonna
football
do.
season. Yeah. Then they go from one Sunday to the next Sunday. Then things start to change and start to decline in a relationship because that was just something that they were doing for you
That's
in the
it.
moment to
That's
make
it.
you happy. When
That's
people come
it.
up to me, be like, "Oh, when your husband going to church? Come to church, girl. Why you worried about it?"
That's it. That's
Why you
it.
worry about if my husband going coming to church, honey? My husband ain't got to come to this church. This church don't. No church don't determine whether no somebody got a relationship with God.
But God, it does not. But that is
And
the
that's what people think. They think that somebody got to be running up to the altar every Sunday trying to prove, baby, is he praying with you?
yes,
Do we
that's
have
it.
provision for this relationship, for this marriage? Are you dating for a purpose? Cause and don't be dating cause who you think your mama gonna like. Cause I'm the wrong mama. You bring your little nappy head boyfriend over here talking about y'all getting married. Baby, I thought I done prayed about it and done been around and done sniffed around him for some time. Don't expect don't expect for me to be all in love, son in love, honey. I don't do that son in love stuff. I ain't doing the son in love. That's fake. That's fakeness anyway. A son in love, baby. Do you got a son of Christ?
Yes,
A son in
but
love with
it
no
is.
Jesus.
Listen, it is. We just wanted to I wanted to jump on today quickly. Well, it was supposed to be quick, but we are 57 minutes in, just to talk about what is a good man and what is the determination of a good man. Now we know everybody's going to take their own determination of what is a good man, and some of these qualifications are not needed for some people
Right.
and they still qualify the man as a good man. That's to each his own. That's going to be each person's call to the relationship and what they deem that they need for their relationships. But we did want to throw out some of these characteristics here because we hear it talked about so much in the church. We hear it talked about social media. It's talked about all the time about what a good man is, and we didn't really tap into what a good woman is because you hear that so much. To me, it always seems like a good woman is the woman who can take as much trauma from the man as possible. That's what it always seems to me of what society deems as a good woman. I think it's very unfair that our goodness is based on trauma and how much pain we can take. Very, very unfortunate, but I
Right.
don't label that as a good woman. I just feel like that is passed on generational trauma, passed on from generation to generation. Um,
Absolutely.
However, I do feel that there are things in relationships that you will go through and that you will get past, and it doesn't negate necessarily as trauma. It's basically strength that you're able to move past and grow past those things because you've seen that someone needed growth in an area that you decided that you wanted to stay in, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't feel like there's anything in a relationship that you can't grow past. I
Right.
believe that you can grow past and heal past anything in a marriage that you're going through. And I say anything, I do mean anything. A lot of people want to put a cap on what that anything is, but I do believe that you can heal past anything in a relationship as long as two people are willing to heal past it. And as long as you put God first, I believe that you can heal through anything. I don't believe that there is a time where you can't unless you just don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And when a person shows you that this is not what they want to do, they'll show you through their actions where they continue to do the same patterns over and over and over again. And then that's when you would have to make a decision. And that shows you that that person may be good in some areas, but just in the area that you're not, that you need them to be good in. They're not good in that area. So you just have to make a decision. And it's not
Yeah.
hard. It's not, I hate when people put that term on social media, they're in a complicated relationship. There's no such thing as a freaking complicated relationship. It's just that somebody don't want to be in it. That's it. Somebody want it and somebody don't. That's the
Right.
only thing that makes it complicated. Because if
Amen.
somebody wants a relationship, it's not complicated. That's it.
Absolutely.
So we just, like I said, we just wanted to jump on real quick. We had a lot of viewers tonight, but we didn't have any questions, and I'm assuming people were just kind of listening in to what we were saying. I really appreciate you all coming in tonight. I don't know if you all heard my disclaimer in the very, very beginning. Facebook is now getting rid of the live videos every 30 days. So I would charge you to go to my YouTube page. So for Revelations by Erica, like the page and follow the page. YouTube lets you sit on there till doomsday. Facebook is acting funky, but it is what it is. So they are removing the live videos after 30 days, but you can go back and rewatch the live videos on YouTube at any time. So like me and follow me on YouTube. Thank you guys for coming in. And once again, it's your sister, it's your friend, it's your auntie. We out. Soul from Revelations by Erica.